What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Woke as Fuck podcast. We're here, sort of impromptu-ish. We're in London, in a flat. We're here with John Gold. You might recognize his voice from a previous podcast where we talk about consciousness and fascinating topics like that. I think it's your third appearance, actually.
I think it is,
yeah. I think you've been on more than anyone. And, of course, it's Henry Lee from henrylee.com. Is it not?
I do have that website.
That's right. Yeah, so I figured who's this guy? Well, we might as well tell him your future website.
That'll eventually become.
Yeah. So maybe when you see this, maybe it won't be up, but one day it will be up. And I'm of course your hostess with the mostest. Hostess with the most moistest. Sounds like it doesn't say moistest.
Moistest host.
I think I'm still
the hoistess with the moistest.
I'm the hoistess with the moistest, as we've been talking about Jew stuff. So it's going to be a great time. That's all I can, always from the beginning. So first, let's begin with you. What have you been up to? It's been as usual. It's been like about a year, and what's been happening for you in the world?
Are we?
Come back to it later.
No, because I was gonna. Are we starting from the beginning again?
I was literally coming in from the start.
Okay, but are you okay?
So do
you want me to just talk about what I've been doing, or?
Yeah, this is where you beginning with the Kambo and all that shit.
Okay, and then we're going to go back to revisit the circumcision thing.
I'll just get that in.
Okay, no, because there was a point I was going to make.
You were going to make a point?
George, shall I just say it now and you can segment it in, or whatever? We'll do it at the end. I'll just ask. So you've just asked me what's going on, what's happening. Yeah, no, I remember what it is. So now I'll just say what I've been doing in the last year. Okay. No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No, do. No, you haven't, because you just fucking cut it. You just fucking cut it and edit it. It's easy. Don't leave it in.
I mean, in a way, I think it's actually quite funny that the podcast begins right in the middle of another conversation, and then we do an intro.
What do you want me to do? Do you want me to fucking start again, or do you want me to continue what I was saying?
I think we should start from where we were at this point.
Are you ready to get woke? Welcome to the Woke as podcast with your host, Alex Lazarev.
So I've had chronic back pain since my early 20s. Happened in the gym, thought it was a lifting incident, went to see a doctor. They did an MRI scan, an x-ray, and I've got this thing called spondylolisthesis, L4, L5, which is actually very common, and that's where one vertebrae has slipped forward onto the next one, and then there's a disc problem there. So then that becomes my problem that I have. It's like an identity, and when you've got back pain, it just takes over your life. Which actually is what your brain wants to do. It wants you to be distracted from the pain. Anyway, so I've had surgery on it a couple of times. I've had loads of injections, the whole thing. And one time I had surgery and it got better. And then, funnily enough, I slipped a disc in my neck. And then I started having there's no such thing as a slipped disc. This is the thing. It's the pain needed an outlet. And when I had the surgery on my lower back, there's a placebo effect that gets rid of it. Right. And then it finds another outlet, which was my neck. And then I had surgery on my neck, fixed that. And then 2 years later, it comes back to my back. So your body is just looking for an outlet for the pain.
What kind of surgery did you have?
Thank God, I didn't. Thank God, no, I didn't have a fusion. This is what they were telling me. I had a laser keyhole surgery, which is just to kind of use a laser to remove the debris around the nerve, which again is bollocks, because there's no such thing as a pinched nerve. This is what you get from the book. He said the whole thing is nonsense, that if you pinch a nerve, you're paralysed. The pain is nothing to do with the nerves being pinched because of narrowing or anything like that. So all of these conditions, slip disc, spinal narrowing, spondylolisthesis, all of it, they're just normal abnormalities of a spine that don't cause pain. Anyway, so I've had chronic pain on and off. It's come back. I had more injections and it's still not great. And someone recommended a book to me called Healing Back Pain by a guy called John Sarno. It's a book from the 90s, and in this book he deconstructs the whole thing, and he said that he's healed thousands of people, not with any medicine or any surgery, just through getting them to talking about their emotions and their life and what's going on, their stress. It's basically stress illness. That's what this condition is. It's repressed anger, anxiety and stress, and your body thinks that these emotions are so painful for you that if they come up, you're going to die. So what it does is it creates the pain as a distraction so that you'll be too focused on your body that you're not going to the emotions. And that's exactly what it's done for me. It's because when you get back problem, it takes over your life. It's like all you think about all the time. So it works. And I've realised that, and now I've read this book and other books, similar books. So any book by John Sarno is good. He's got 2 other books, I think. There's a really good book by Steve Ozanich called The Great Pain Deception, which is actually the best book on the subject, which I just finished reading. And now I've realised my level of pain is correlated with my stress level. When I'm stressed, I'm in a lot of pain, and when I'm relaxed, it goes right down. It's obvious to me now. Right. So I'm in the process of changing my subconscious, like over and over again. You have to keep telling yourself there's nothing wrong with my back. You have to get rid of that image you have in your mind of the discs and the spine and replace it with one of reduced blood flow. So this John Sarno, he postulates that the pain is just your body taking blood and oxygen away from that area. That's all it is. It's totally harmless, but the pain can be really severe. So it's not that the pain's in your head. It's not. The pain is totally real, but it's completely harmless. It's harmless.
It's a distraction again.
It's a distraction.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
We talked about other distractions from pain, right? It was excess eating. It's the one that was not so widely known about, or drugs and alcohol. I've not thought of your body producing physical pain as a distraction from emotions.
Yeah. And when he describes the kind of person that gets this condition, and it was my jaw hit the floor. I was like, he's talking about me. There's this eureka moment where...
What was that? What kind of things?
It's perfectionism, repressed anger, which up until recently I didn't know I had, but it's coming out.
Oh, me.
Huge, huge anger issues.
Were you someone who never felt angry?
No,
ever?
No.
Yeah,
and it's because it was shut down from when I was a kid.
Right? That's it. It's been years since I ever got angry. I must not be an angry person.
Yeah, it means you're the most angry motherfucker, and you're basically a fucking shooting waiting to happen. That's what you are. But it's perfectionism. He calls it goodists, where it's like you have to be liked by everybody. So it's people pleasing, perfectionists, anxiety, anger, and a few other traits as well. But I'm just like, oh my god, it's me. I am the fucking type T. They call it the type T personality for this condition. And I was like, right, okay, this is it. It's good because there's nothing wrong with me.
Right.
I forget the doctors, forget the surgery. It's all bollocks. That pain is my anger. And it's trying to tell me something, and I've just got to figure out what it is. And it's about figuring it out. And like you said, with the work that you did,
So now we're
now
we're on the Woke as Fuck. This is once again as a podcast. As every time I see John or anyone else, we start having a brilliant conversation, right? And there's a little voice in my head that's like, just take a moment, set up the equipment, and continue with the conversation. So
next time, have it set up when I get here.
Before you get here, it should be set up, and you just show up and like, here's your cup of tea, mate. There's your mic, and then we start talking.
Yeah.
So what I was saying, exactly what you're describing has been my experience for the last 20 years. 20 years. I was 17 years old. Everyone who listens to the podcast already knows about my psychological and physical child abuse that was quite heavy. So like that wasn't enough. Stepfather dies, mother kills herself. So I'm fucking furious at this woman who then abandons me as well, just as an extra fuck you, right? So funny, right around that time, right after
17.
17 years old, 17, 18, whatever. Right after she dies, literally I'm laying in bed and I could barely get out of bed. I had this mat, like my whole leg went numb and my back hurt, all this weird shit. I started seeing chiropractors. Couldn't find anyone good. Eventually I found someone good who could put me back in shape, but it didn't matter because I would just keep falling apart. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And initially, I'm like, okay, the people were like, well, if you strengthen your muscles, they will keep your spine in better, blah, blah, blah. So, okay, I started going to the gym. Does it help? Yeah, it helped. Years later, oh, well, you have a lot of tension. Well, if you get massages, that'll help. Did it help? Yeah, it helped.
But you know why it helps? Because it improves blood flow. Okay. Has nothing to do with, that's what it is.
It definitely helped, but it didn't matter. Still pain, tension, all this stuff, still seeing chiropractors less, but still seeing people and all this. And then moment of, some clarity. It's funny because in life it's just, you get these moments of, oh, I think I get it, but it's never the full story. It's just another piece of the puzzle and you just keep waking up more. Same thing with pain and healing. So about maybe 3-ish years ago, maybe 3.5 something, I went to see this one woman who's a Chinese woman who gives massages, but medical massage. So it's deep, deep, deep. We're talking levels of pain where you must be screaming at top level or you will either pass out or go insane. I don't even know what would happen. You have to scream. And once you accept, like, so I'm in this massage and I realize how much pain it is, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna scream. Fortunately, there was no one else there, and I was literally an hour and a half of me screaming at the top of my lungs. But interestingly, when you're screaming on a level, there's no pain. Like, there is pain, but as you're screaming, you're just the guy screaming. There's no pain. And it was so bad that there was 10 minutes left, and I hear somebody come in the front door, and I was like, Isabel? She's like, yeah. I'm like, leave right now and come back in 15 minutes, right now. And I didn't want her to continue until Isabel walked out, because she would hear me screaming in agony, which is, she would freak out, right? And so after that massage, the woman said to me, she said, your problem isn't muscle tension. She said that was soul level pain that was coming up, deep stuff. And this was at a point where I had to get at least one massage a week, or I would be in so much pain, or I would fall apart. For 6 months after that massage, I didn't see anybody. I thought I was maybe cured. I mean, it was ridiculous. Of course, slowly it came back, but never the same. Never as bad as before. So it was me getting that screaming, was the pain in the body was this deep fucking anger and sorrow that was stuck in the body. So again, fast forward, I did the primal course, which I spoke about on the podcast. Again, lots of screaming, hitting things, flipping out, so much crying, emotional release, felt so much better afterwards. And I thought, I'm done. I thought, that's it. I'm fixed now. There's no more. I'm done. Guess what? Never think you're done. That's literally the trap. As soon as you think you're done, the universe goes, oh, really? Oh, you're done, are you? Here you go. Smack in the face. So again, the last couple of years, I had this heel insert I was wearing because I thought one leg was longer. Long story short, you take this thing out. My knees, because my legs weren't actually a different length. So, actually, you know what? Fuck it. I'll do the quick version, because it'll help a lot of people. Because most people that have a leg shorter, they're told, oh yeah, your leg's shorter. Yeah, so we're gonna give you this heel insert. Put that in, and then you'll be fine. It's bullshit. Mostly it's your thighs too tight or your hips out of alignment, and once you correct that, your legs are the same.
Yeah, it's bullshit. It's bullshit.
I met someone who fixed my super tight thigh that was pulling at my hip. Yeah, and that was pulling the leg up, right? So once the leg dropped, the guy's like, oh, you can just throw this thing out, which is great. Now I don't have to, every time I have a pair of shoes, I have to put this fucking thing in. So I throw it out, and I'm like, oh, great, I'm fine. Then the body starts readjusting, and all of the issues that I already had started, fucking playing out.
It's just trying to find an outlet. Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. The outlet was gone, perhaps. I don't know. But either way, I go, pain, my knees are hurting, they're locking up sometimes. I was limping. It was fucking ridiculous last couple of years, and it would come and go. And again, it got really bad the last few weeks, really bad, to the point where I'm just like, I don't want to walk, I don't want to do anything, what the fuck's going on? And we did this exercise called parts work with Isabel, which basically somebody, and you can just go online, look up parts work, but all someone does is they just take on the consciousness of one of your body parts, and they just feel into it, and then you're asking that person questions, but you're talking to your knee or your thigh. And basically my body ended up telling me what the real problem was, and we went through the chain, and I spoke to my knees first, and they said talk to the thighs. I spoke to the thighs, my quads, and they said basically talk to your lower back, and I spoke to my lower back, and my lower back was fucking pissed at my mother, like so pissed. And he even said where the reason I'm so tense, it's almost like in spite of your mother, to show her like, oh, you're gonna tell us we're nothing, well look how strong, look how tall we're standing, like tensing all the time. And I was like dude, can you stop, because you're hurting the knees and the quads. And my lower back was like, fuck you, I don't care about them, I don't care about you, I'm pissed, I want to kill that fucking bitch. Like it was pissed. And
you won.
No, I'm
let it go.
I let it go. I let it go on primal. I'm good. I accept everything. Everything's beautiful. I don't give a shit. I'm happy. But I'm not my lower back, and my lower back isn't me. So my lower back's like, bro, you're okay. We're not okay. We're pissed. And I said, well, what can I do? And they said, well, you can help me get this anger out. So what I did was a couple times I just I said, okay, lower back, bring your consciousness into me, and you use my mouth and body to the rest of the body to vent. And I just sat there in front of my computer typing, and it was the most horrific vitriol you've ever heard in your life. Like if the police got a hold, like if some woman got a hold of this, took it to the cops and said, "This is what this guy emailed me," they'd lock me up. Yeah. They'd lock me up. And the third time I did it, and I could feel it was just the anger from the lower back. It wasn't there. It was maybe subtle, but it just wasn't like those first two times. And then we spoke to my lower back again, and it was like, hey, I'm feeling a lot better. Maybe one more time go out in the forest and do some screaming. That will be good, but we're all right for the most part. And I felt it shift, and my knees are much better now. And the other day I went for a really, really long walk, and just at the end of it, my knees were like, okay, that's enough, take a break. But it was a huge shift. So
you were barely walking 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I could barely walk around. Yeah. So it continues, and when you have really deep embedded pain and trauma, I in my experience, there's no quick. Oh yeah, just do this therapy and you'll be fine. No, it's a lifelong hacking away, slowly letting it out, finding ways, slowly, getting it out. But so profound, like what you're talking about. Like,
yeah, I know. How I turned up today with that to say, oh, by the way, I had this back problem, blah blah blah, and it's how it's the same fucking thing, and it's this TMS, and there's a whole industry.
What's TMS again?
Oh, there's a few different ways. Originally, I think it was transmyoneural syndrome, and then it became the mind-body syndrome, and then there's still the letters TMS, but different words. Over the years, it's changed. But if you just look up TMS pain, you'll find it. And like the back pain industry, there's 2 surgeries I had cost 10 grand each, right? And according to this thing, all of it bollocks, nothing. If you have a spinal fusion costs you 20-30 grand, right? It does nothing. The only reason the pain goes is a placebo effect, or because if you have some kind, let's say you've got lower back pain because essentially what your brain does is it withdraws blood and oxygen from the area. So if your brain has withdrawn all the blood away from your lower back, the nerves are going to be hypersensitive. That's why they hurt, but it's not because they're being pinched. Then if you have an injection or a denervation procedure that stuns those nerves, the pain's going to go away. But it's not actually really done anything. But if you have a spinal fusion, like where they fucking put a cage around your spine, the only reason it would work is placebo. It's nonsense. The whole thing is, I believe it. Wow. Now you have to believe it. If you're going to heal from this, you have to believe it.
I had that offered to me once. Yeah. I have a slight hunch in my upper back,
right?
And it's not that bad. When I have clothes on, you can't really see it. And without clothes, it's still a minor hunch. And I had it, and my mother had it, and my grandma had it, and it sort of develops in adolescence. And I saw someone once about it once or twice, and we measured it. It wasn't getting worse. It fixes in late adolescence. Yeah. And I had offered to me, if you want, you can have a spinal fusion, and that was described to me as, we'll break your back in multiple places, align it so it's straight, and then stick it together with steel rods. Yeah. And there's a 5% chance you get paralysed for life.
My cousins had a whole spine fused.
That's the standard of care. If you have too bad of a hunch that it's kind of like hurting you, there's nothing else they can do other than break your back and stick it back together. And
one of my cousins, a young girl, had really bad scoliosis.
That's insane. I didn't know that's what it was. That's the most insane thing I've ever heard.
Stick it together with steel or titanium rods, and then straight back.
My cousin.
If you're in a car accident and you're about to die because your spine's broken in an accident, then I'll go. Go for that. But when you're fine, you're walking around, living and breathing. Who the fuck would do that?
Yeah, it's. I guess people opt for it if they're like the proper hunchbacks, right? And then people are like, "Fuck, look at that dude's back."
Yeah. I think. In this book, it says that it's less than 1%. The people that have back problems, less than 1% actually need surgery. Yeah. Obviously, there'll be people that have a terrible, if you have like a. So what I have is a spondylolisthesis, is grade 1. It's a tiny slip, but if you've got like a grade 4. Which is like literally that. Yeah. Maybe something needs to be done. Sure. But he says it's less than 1%. For most people, 99% of people, there's nothing wrong with you. It's emotional. If it's chronic, you can hurt your back, but it should heal within 2 months. You break your arm, it heals. You know what I mean? You strain a muscle in your back, it heals. But if you've got chronic pain that's going on for months, or it comes and goes, where you'll have episodes of it, it's chronic, it's emotional. And normally, if you look at your life, there'll be triggers, emotional triggers, stress triggers that bring it on. And it's the same for all kinds of health conditions. Fucking everything from hemorrhoids to Crohn's disease to fucking eczema.
All the things that we don't know why they happen, right?
Yeah, it's all emotional, and it makes total sense. And in the Western medicine, we treat the symptoms. So if you've got eczema, they give you cream, they give you pills, they have surgery. But actually, it's not doing anything other than treating the symptoms. And the source is the emotions. We're all chronically angry and stressed.
To the degree that I've emptied those emotions out and processed them properly, my health has also improved. And eczema skin is completely cleared up. And partly that's diet, but now I'm eating gluten and stuff again, which was the thing that removing fixed it last time, and I'm fine. But what I am different is having a lot less emotional tension in my body, competing emotions kind of bashing together.
Yeah, that's where I'm still at. I can actually feel it now. It's inner tension. It's a conflict in your body, and a lot of it is also it's conflict, and it's people pleasing, doing what I should do, but actually it's not what I really want to do. But I just smile and take it. That's what it is, and there's a lot of that's gone on in the past. That's changing, but I can feel an inner conflict, and now I'm working with a therapist on it, and I'm reading the documentation and talking to her, and on a day-to-day basis I can feel the tension, but I don't quite know how to. I haven't figured out how to fix it for me, because it's not a cookie cutter method for everybody. Everybody's pain is going to have a different story. Everybody's stress is slightly different, so you have to figure out for you what is it that's doing it. Is it just you're under a lot of stress, or is it that there's a truth inside you that you've been denying, that you've been hiding your whole life, that actually you really hate your fucking mum, or you hate your girlfriend, or you hate yourself, or you're angry at somebody, but you've been pushing it down, and it's yeah. I'm surprised. I can't believe you did. But yeah, it's one of those things, and it's just the body is just finding outlets to distract you.
I have an intuition about my hunch, or people that have hunches in their upper back. I noticed that when people, the heart center is here, right? I noticed that when people hunch, often they're just trying to withdraw their heart. You see the heart sinks backwards into their body, their chin comes down and their shoulders come forward, like a defense. It's like you're trying to wall off the heart from external factors, and that to me seems like an obvious emotional, or I get the intuition that that's related, that the emotional core of upper back, which is rounding again to kind of protect the heart, is for that.
Absolutely. No, I think you're dead on. And similar for me is I have very closed hips. I think it's to do with protecting this area. I think it's because it's traumatized down here. Obviously heart as well, but my hips are very closed and I'm naturally pigeon-toed.
You're not circumcised, are you?
No, I am. It is that 100%. Yeah. Horribly traumatic. Yeah, it's disgusting. And I know I've talked to my mum about it. She said mine was different from my brother's. Mine was very traumatic as a baby for me, and my brother's wasn't so much. So I think, definitely, it's that trauma is with me, and I'm working with a tantric body worker and have been for a while, and she's helping me to. But I think there's a deep rage and trauma and anger to do with that.
And right too.
And right, yeah. But it's and that's why I think my hips are closed. If interesting you said it, because that's what I was going to say. It's because of that.
I've had conversations about that before.
Yeah. No, it's horrible. It's just complete brainwashing how we do it, and when you actually see what it really is, it's just insanity. Like, what are we doing? Fucking cutting babies' dicks. It's just ridiculous. It's really bad. And I was born Jewish, although I don't consider myself Jewish now, because I really don't want anything to do with it. But my mum's Jewish, my friends are Jewish, so I have a Jewish heritage. And in the very Orthodox Jews, when they do it, when the mohel cuts...
Do you have an Orthodox family?
No, not at all. But most Jews are circumcised just because it's the done thing. Even if you're religious or not, it's just what you do. Because you think you're better off. You're told it's cleaner, it's better. Right, it's just fucking brainwashing. And in the Orthodox Jews, when the mohel cuts the baby's penis, he fucking sucks the blood. Right? How fucked up is that? If there's a Joe Rogan that's talked about it, he's like, if that happened anywhere else other than in the religion, right, cutting babies' dicks and sucking them, you get put away for a very long time, right? I mean, it's insanity, and that's basically the most Orthodox Jewish way to circumcise a baby, is to, when they cut it, the mohel puts his mouth to the baby's penis, because apparently he says it's to disinfect it. But actually, there's been cases of babies getting herpes from and
it doesn't get any more satanic than
no.
After slicing,
but the level of brainwashing.
You literally said to me, "Yeah, mate. So we're gonna come up with a satanic ritual, just for this funny sketch we're doing. What can you think of?" I'd be like, "Chop a baby's dick off and suck the blood." That's what I would come up with naturally. So when I hear it, I'm like,
yeah.
Were you circumcised?
No, thank fucking God, I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm a non-circumcised Jew, and whenever I said it to anyone, they're like, "How was that possible?" And I'm like, I think it was divine intervention. Like, I already signed up for so much trauma just having my parents, and I signed up.
Like, keep his penis.
Yeah. So the universe was like, we'll let you go on the. You've got enough, mate. We're gonna. And apparently the story was it was gonna happen, and she just was like, no.
Good. Yeah.
I was chatting to a friend about this on Telegram on Instant Messenger recently, and he was beginning to kind of identify with this thing that had happened to him, and be because he'd read some science or some opinion somewhere that said that the first time you have unprotected sex, there's some nerves in your foreskin that rewire your brain so you're linked to that person, and he thought he'd never be able to have that, and I was saying that it's probably. Yeah, there's probably something you're missing, but it's probably not as big as you think, and it's probably not as big a deal as you think. And ultimately, it's about the energetic interaction between two people, which is not related to the particular nerves in a particular place. It's about the energy centers and so on.
But sorry to cut you off. Something I am doing, have been doing for a long, long time, is something called Foreskin Restoration.
Oh yeah.
So non-surgical foreskin restoration.
With
right.
stem cells or
No. Although that is happening, it's a few years off. But there is a company called Foreskin that are doing that proper. No, as in you have that you rebuild your foreskin using stem cells. But I think they're still 10 or 20 years away. But anyway, non-surgical foreskin restoration is where you use. It's the same method. How when people put earrings in their ears, they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you get this big, or in the lip, or when pregnant women have a baby, their skin stretches and then grows. It's called mitosis. So if you put skin under tension, new skin will grow. If you have a burn and you have to have a graft, they'll put a balloon under your skin to grow more skin, to cut it off, to stick over it. Right, it's that technology, but you wear a little device that holds the skin that you have, the shaft skin under tension, and new skin grows. And it takes a long time. It takes fucking years, right? And I've been doing it. I've been doing it for a long time, and I've grown skin, and the difference is it's so much better. Oh, I can't tell you the difference. Like,
so you're getting sensation added from this.
So not only do you get sensation added because your dick's covered all the time, right? But and that's the sort of
works.
It totally works. No, but it takes a long time. It's fucking years. It's a slow process.
Biochemistry word for cell division.
Yeah, right? That's it. It's a slow process. Some people do it really quickly, like 2 years. I've been doing it for fucking years. On and off, because you get kind of.
I guess you don't want to wear a cockpit the whole time.
Huh?
I guess you don't want to wear something the whole time.
No, you do. You get used to it. You just go into fucking autopilot. Okay. Honestly, you just forget about it. But for some people, it requires more work than others. Some guys just wear a fucking device, and in 2 years they've just grown a foreskin. It's easy. For others, they need to put a bit more work in. And it involves. For me, I've found if I do manual stretching, where you use your hands. If I do half an hour a day of manual stretching, I won't describe it, but you can figure it out what I'm talking about.
I do as well, but I'm not trying to rogue it. I seem to be doing the practice. I don't know why.
But you have to just basically tension the skin, but a lot. And for some people, that's what works. And for me, that's what works, is I have to go really high tension. And the first thing you'll get is when your dick's covered, rather than just being exposed all the time, and it's covered by its own skin, so you can get these, it's called a retainer. So at night, when I go to bed, there's a little plastic cone thing that you roll the skin up and you put that on top and it holds it in place. And I'm getting almost the same effect as having a foreskin, but what happens is the glands of your dick starts to soften and change colour, and it starts, instead of being this dry, fucking calloused, leathery thing, it starts to go back to what it used to be like.
It's not dry if you're not circumcised, at least not for...
No, it's not dry. It's moist. It's how it's supposed to be, right? So what happens is when you wear a retainer, it starts to change. The skin changes. It starts to go back to being mucous membrane.
It's quite moist down there, actually.
Yeah, it's moist.
Yeah, it's nice.
Right, but if you're circumcised, it's dry as fuck. It's just dry, and it goes. And over the years, what happens is it's called keratinization. The skin starts to toughen up to protect the nerves, and it just becomes. It got to the point where I just couldn't feel anything. So the first stage is the resensitization. That's when you just have a little bit of extra skin and you're covering your dick. The next stage is when you actually have enough skin that when you're having sex, the skin moves backwards and forwards. And that is fucking incredible. When you've never had that sensation before, right? Seriously, when you've never had that sensation before and you just had dry friction, and now you've got this gliding motion.
That's literally the best part of it.
Of course it is.
When you're getting a blowjob, it's them kissing and licking that tit that can move around like that. That's where all the fun. The rest of it's like, oh, whatever.
Exactly.
I don't even care. Like when I get a blowjob, I just want them to play with the tip, that part. That literally, the girls will go down. I'm like, no, don't bother. Just your tongue on the end. That's good. The rest is just.
It's the male clit, isn't it?
You're talking about the frenulum.
I don't know the part
underneath.
That's the ridge he's talking about.
Yeah, I don't. Mine was removed. Mine was I don't have one.
The ridge on the end of your gland.
The bit underneath where the foreskin joins the penis. That's the clit.
You don't have that?
No,
That's a clip.
that's the clip. Apparently, it's the equivalent.
Serious?
Yeah,
that's where all the sexual pleasure is.
Yes, mine was removed. I know, it's
John,
bad.
do you think that without the sexual pleasure, you can focus on work more? Yeah.
Yeah, it's always felt to me like there's something missing from sex.
Whoa, no shit.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's so bad. It's so, and like my brother's still got his, and I know someone else that's still got his. So you don't always lose the frenulum. It's some circumcision, some not. No, one brother, but another guy I know who I've talked to this about. He has his frenulum, so it just depends on the guy that.
You mean your brother's circumcised, but he still has his.
He has his,
right.
And another guy I know who I've talked about this with. He has his.
Yours was messy. That doesn't sound.
That's brutal.
Yeah, it's so brutal. I know.
But is it possible to grow that back?
No, there's nothing you can do about that. But what you can get is
28 minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
So I can keep talking.
Well, finish.
Yeah.
Well, we got the audio. Yeah.
So when you're into foreskin restoration, there's forums and groups and men, talk about it and give advice. And a guy who was intact from birth, wasn't circumcised as a baby, but was circumcised as an adult and is now restored. He said, being intact 10 out of 10 in terms of sensation and how you feel when you're having sex. Being circumcised 3 out of 10. Being restored 7 out of 10. So it's like you can get it back to a 7 from a 3, which is pretty damn good.
And I bet with consciousness exercise and so on, you can enhance what's already there anyway. I'm sure there's.
No, and also tantra.
It's completely blocked off from their organs.
And no. And if you've gone, do you wanna stop it there and then we'll carry on talking. What was
the word for such a horrible act?
No, it's not the right word. Because you're right. It's a benign word.
Genital mutilation for females.
Genital mutilation is what it is. Yeah. It's almost like circumcised sounds normal and uncircumcised sounds not normal, which is just fucking wrong. What was the point? You were talking about something just before we stopped it.
Saying the men are cut off from their sexual
yes,
energy.
right. No, but when you're able to have proper tantric sex and you're moving your sexual energy, it doesn't matter. That's the thing, is if you're able to really cultivate your sexual energy properly, it won't matter.
It's like those few nerves compared to the entire body sensation.
Correct. When you can have whole body orgasms, the fact that you're circumcised won't make that much difference. But that aside, it's still a fucking horrendous assault on a baby. That fucking, and you know that they did a study that it causes brain damage into the limbic system to a baby. They tested a baby before and after a circumcision. And it traumatized the baby so much that it caused permanent changes to the limbic system, and they said it would throw off his whole emotional system for life, and he'll never be the same again. And it's like, well, obviously, when a baby, 8-day-old baby or whatever it is, his brain is forming, he's making sense of everything, and then just suddenly it's like the most horrible fucking assault on the most sensitive part of his body. It's like, well, what do you think is going to happen? That's what it learns. That's what it's learning. It's forming its reality, and then that happens.
I've heard it. I've heard someone say, and this man is a man who went back and gradually recovered all his memories as a kid that you don't remember because it's too traumatic, and he remembered being circumcised.
Wow.
And he said, at that age, he didn't have the consciousness formed to know where the different parts of his body was. He just remembers his entire body having a burning sensation from the thing, and didn't know what was happening, and it wasn't like his dick was hurting because he didn't know what that was or what the parts were. It was just his whole body was on fire.
That's what it would be for a baby. It's horrible. And one day it will stop. One day they'll fucking figure it out and they'll make it illegal. But until that day comes, it's like all my Jewish friends, that they all had, the ones that have had the kids, they had their boys circumcised, and it's like the level of brainwashing is just. I've talked about it with one guy, and I explained it to him. And he was just couldn't accept it. Even when I totally explained the logic of it, and his arguments made no sense. But he was for circumcision, how it's wrong. He's saying because he's Jewish and he's had his son circumcised, and I was just trying to explain it to him. One of my Jewish friends, he couldn't accept it, and his arguments made no sense. I just basically destroyed his arguments, and he continued to argue even though they were completely nonsensical. And I was just, he just made these ridiculous statements that made no sense, and I just basically broke it down, and it's complete brainwashing.
Brainwashing plus low level of consciousness,
right?
Because even if you're brainwashed, but you're at a certain level, it's a level where you can say, well, maybe I'm wrong, so I'm willing to listen with an open mind. Low consciousness, they're not interested. They're not going to listen to anything. So it's a very sneaky combination of things.
I think that if you think you've been a good religious person and initiated your child, and then someone says, actually, you've just fucked him up potentially for life, You're not going to want to listen to that person, no matter if they're right or not.
No, and there's the whole thing with men as well of like, we don't talk about things. When it happens to women, there's outrage because women talk about this stuff. Men don't. We bottle it all up and we just get on with it. You know, oh, it happened. My dad was all right. I was okay. You know, I'm okay. So my son should have it. I want him to be like me, and we just get on with it. We don't talk about it in the way that we're talking about it now. And once you see it, it's so obviously horrendously wrong. Terrible thing to do. It's awful, but it's happening all the time. It's just fucking happening. Like it's still in America. They do it all the time in North America. It's changing.
Even to non-Jews?
Yeah. It's changing, but in North America, I think that the circumcision rate is still very high. They ask the parents. They just offer it at a hospital. They'll just say, do you want him circumcised? And it's a cosmetic procedure, basically.
Cosmetic.
Yeah. But anyway,
I had a thought, and again, I imagine even a normal uncircumcised man wearing a condom might have the same or less feeling than an uncircumcised person who's going natural during sex, which is a consideration as well, because it's probably easy to feel that you'll never have it as good as other men, but if those other men are wearing a condom the whole time because they're not in a relationship or whatever, but you may have it better depending on in terms of.
And also, here's another thing, right? Circumcisions are not regulated. There are different degrees of severity, whether you've got your frenulum or not.
Right.
So some circumcisions they just cut the top off and you still have loads of moving skin.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
No, see, mine, I got no frenulum and I had no moving skin. They just fucking took loads. But there's worse. You get ones where they cut so much skin that when you're an adult and you get hard on, your balls get pulled up because there's not enough skin there. It's really bad. So I mean, even though like mine was severe, there's botched ones. There's ones where you get skin bridges. It's like horrible fucking stuff like you can get from it.
I wonder what. I mean, from a spiritual perspective, whether they knew they were signing up for that when the souls came down into that. Or
it's so bad. It's so bad. I remember when I figured it out, I realised there was something wrong, and I looked into it, and I was just like, I can't believe what's happened to me. Like, I can't believe this has happened to me. How could they do that to me? How can my parents fucking let, you know?
Right. So got the parents.
Yeah. My dad died before I figured this out, but I've talked about it with my mum, and she had no idea. I can't blame her for it. She said she was crying when she handed me over.
Really?
Yeah. But she was just brainwashed like the rest.
Was it religious?
Yeah. I mean, we're not religious, but as in we're not strict. But it's just what the circumcisions is like. Yeah, that's the done thing.
The big question is, how is it possible that just under the guise of religion or just overall brainwashing, people can do things to other people that you can't imagine to be right or okay? Just common sense or decency would be like, don't chop the skin off baby's dick.
It's obvious. It's so obvious when you
from the outside. Everything's obvious from the outside when you're in it. Like when I was even just very mildly Christian for years, it was entirely normal every Sunday to go up to the front and eat his body and drink his blood, which is the bread and the wine. And no one seemed to raise an eyebrow at that, even though when you think about the idea of that, it's a little. And Christians believe that in the moment when it's blessed by the priest, it literally becomes the body and blood, even though it tastes like bread and tastes like wine, obviously. It's
well, look, you got fundamentalists that will strap a bomb to themselves and blow themselves up, and they think they're doing the right thing.
That's true.
Nobody's doing it deliberately to hurt people. That's the other thing, is they're doing what they think is best. They really think that they're doing by doing what they're doing, right? As such a horrendous act, they think it's the right thing to do. My parents thought it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So no one's the guy that blows himself up thinks it's the right thing to do. He's not being evil. Like they think they're the good guys, the fundamentalists. So
it's quite a shift in thinking. But everyone is motivated by they think they're doing the right thing.
Correct. Everybody's the good guys. Yeah. And it's
but some of those people are really, really traumatized, they're scared, living out of fear, really confused. But they're not. No one actively just goes, "I'm evil. I'm evil, and I want to kill people and destroy."
No, maybe a few. There's a few psychopaths that know that. Yeah, very, very small. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I found the assumption that people are generally good to hold pretty well, even if people are good and can have significant pain that causes them to act out. But where is it that people actually just genuinely will willingly hurt another for the sake of themselves?
For the sake of
care nothing about
that's right. It takes a level of
psychopathy.
That's right. Yeah, there has to be something wrong.
Yeah.
But normal people will do terrible things because they think it's the right thing to do. So anyway, but if any guys are listening that are circumcised and they want us to do what I'm doing, just look it up. Non-surgical foreskin restoration. Yeah. Or if they want to get in touch with me, I'm happy to advise people. But it's worth doing. It makes a big difference. And it's nice that you feel like you're taking your power back. You're doing something about it. So
I asked you whether you'd use the kind of TMS emotional processing thing to deal with the trauma of the
right. That's right. And I say because it's not a pain that's apparent to me. Like my back pain, it's a fucking physical pain in my body that I feel all the time. So it's sort of like something it's localized and I can fix it. But with the circumcision pain, it's not a physical pain. It's more of a blockage, an emotional detachment. And disassociation. So that's what I was saying. Is I think what happened when I was circumcised, I'm sure this happens to a lot of guys, if not all guys, is that when it's happening, you disassociate from the body and you go into your head because it's safe to be there. It's the only thing you can do as a baby. And I've always been in my head my whole life. I'm never in my body. I'm always in thought, lost in thought, thinking, think my way through everything. And I think that's what's happened is when that atrocity happened to me, that trauma when I was a baby, I went into my head and I never came back down. And that's why I'm not in my body. And what I was saying is we all think that Jews are really clever, they're really academic, and they're sort of, they control the money and they're the clever ones. It's because they're fucking circumcised. So when the babies are circumcised, they all disassociate and go into their head and they become cerebral people because it's the only way they can survive, because it's the only safe place to be. And having worked with a tantric body worker, I've had moments during doing work where I feel like I'm about to have a whole body orgasm, and then my mind just shuts it down, just shuts it down, and I go straight back into my head. So and when that's happening, it's like I realise what, for a split second, I can imagine what it's like to live in my body, and then the brain just shuts it down because it's not safe, and that's something I will work through. But
if my friend's experience of remembering circumcision as a whole body pain, not as a localized pain, because those circuits hadn't developed yet, if that is a general experience, it would make complete sense that you go from the body as a whole, which all hurts, into your head, or just away from the body.
Yep. I can't prove it to you. I can't scientifically prove it to anyone, but that's what I think's happened, and again, that's suddenly, recently I was thinking about it. And I was like, who is it? Somebody posted on. I think I wrote it on Facebook, and then somebody posted like, the Jews are really clever. Why do they do this? And it's like, well, it's fucking brainwashing. But that made me think, that's why they're fucking clever. That's why we, the Jews, are clever. It's because the men are all fucking circumcised. They all go up into their heads, disassociate from their bodies, go into their heads, and they become very cerebral academics.
This is the reason.
Less distracted by sex.
Huh?
Less distracted by sex.
Yeah.
Wait a second. This could be the reason why men are smarter than women.
Because the circumcised ones take the average up possibly. Possibly.
Well, just in general, everyone knows that men are smarter than women, right? And so the reason is because we're circumcised, so we're forced into our heads. And possibly. The women are more grounded, more connected to the body, so they're more chill, and they don't want to go around killing. But it's because we're all stuck up in our heads.
That's a general rule.
I wonder if women that have had.
In case anyone's confused, I was joking about the men being.
Oh, I genuinely thought you were serious.
No, if anything, women are smarter.
But I wonder if women that have been circumcised, mutilated, whether they have the same thing of disassociating, going into the head.
I don't know any.
I don't know. But yeah, it's just like if an 18-year-old man that decides he wants to be circumcised, fair enough, go to a doctor, have it done. But to do it to an 8-year-old baby, not only does it not are you taking away its human rights, but you are traumatizing a being whose brain is forming, and it's forming its identity, and its reality is forming, and a huge trauma like that will throw off its whole limbic system. I mentioned that so.
Strangely enough, I can't imagine men queuing outside the doctor's age 18 to get there.
No. Fuck. Anyway, insanity. But
I read a book recently which you recommended a bunch of times, but you read so long ago that you'd forgotten, called the Rocky Horror Tantra book. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's written by this Swami that was an Osho disciple and maintained a more spiritual orientation towards Tantra than what's currently standard practice. And one of the chapters was this kind of apocryphal, slightly mythological story about a society where they used to be run by women, and the women would run it, and the men would be sort of caged domestic servants to the women, and who were essentially enslaved by their sexual instincts, because the women in their full sexual power have had in this story complete control over the desires of men. And there was a break in this story. It was the story of the first patriarch, and how a breakaway group of these women from this society decided that a man would be, who they'd preserved intact without being cut or anything, or would go and form a male household somewhere, and they, as part of this breakaway to form a male dominated society for the first time, in the story they have circumcision for men and female genital mutilation for women, to remove that edge that they described earlier in the myth, that removes, it takes away the woman's ability to orgasm without specific situations because there's no clit, and it takes away the men's ability to be completely led by and manipulated by through sexual energy, to the extent that the man is able to maintain dominance for the first time in this story. And so in a kind of like shaping culture's viewpoint, it's an interesting idea that deliberately reducing sexual pleasure could even the power balance between genders. And I think he tells it as a mythological story rather than any kind of historical fact. I don't know any anthropology to know if there ever have been many female dominated societies or not, but it's a interesting idea, because I think most men, if they're honest about it, would admit that a woman who's fully in her sexual power is will lay any man bare, probably. And that's why I think we have slut shaming, to kind of prevent men feeling insecure.
Makes sense.
It's just an interesting, if you're thinking about planning cultures or groups of races, like you said, it could have been a strategic decision at some point, more than just a kind of cleanliness thing, which doesn't make any fucking sense. No. It's
disempowerment as well. It's a massive disempowerment of men.
I think that's the main thing.
Disempowerment.
With everything, with all the brainwashing.
Yeah.
Everything.
It's funny how that's maintained such a presence, and the female version hasn't, at least not in Jewish culture.
No, but again, I think it's because we just get on with it. Women, we'll talk about it and they'll be outraged, but men will just not admit there's a problem. They'd rather just bottle it up and just get on with it. So, and then it, you know, with it running in families, it's like, well, you know, I had it done, I'm okay. My son had it done because I wanted him to be the same as me, and then it just, you know, it just goes on like that, and it's, we're living in, I mean, the 21st century, right? It's an outdated, barbaric practice. We're not barbarians living in the dark ages. We're living in fucking 2018. It has no place. Genital mutilation in any form has no place in a modern society. It's just insane how it's still allowed to happen. But anyway, yeah.
Well, I mean, I've joked about this before, but if all you need to get away with something really horrific is it be part of religion. Hey mate, I can start a religion tomorrow. And you know what we do in my religion? We rape children and we rape women, but it's our religious beliefs. So I'm going to rape my kids and they're going to rape their kids, and it's our religion.
It would happen if that was, you know what I mean, if you just took circumcision and replaced it with that.
Our religion tomorrow. You need 150 people, and then you can.
But I tell you the difference is if you started, let's just say there was no such thing as circumcision, and you now in 2018 started a religion, and you said we're going to do this thing called circumcision, it wouldn't happen, because people are more evolved in their understanding when they're not already brainwashed, right? But if you go back thousands and thousands of years, the level of consciousness of these people, it was so low that they would just accept things. And there's
I don't think it's much higher now. It's a little bit higher, but it's not much higher.
Significantly higher now.
Yeah, but it's again, if you look at the religious stories of, you know, like what Jesus talked about, and or Muhammad, the way he described things in the stories, they're all talking about enlightenment. That's what all religions, at the heart of all religions is enlightenment, but it's been completely misconstrued because the people that were talking about, like Jesus and Muhammad, they had to talk in allegory. They had to tell a story to someone, to dogmatic, low consciousness people, because it's the only way they'd understand it. If you tried to have a technical discussion about non-duality like we do, it wouldn't work. They just wouldn't understand it. So they make up a story and they tell it to these people because that's how they got them to try and get it. And what we've done is we've got these stories and we're still using them now and looking at them like they're literal, not allegorical. So I've forgotten the point I was going to make.
Well, you raised this earlier today by sending me a blog talking about Jed McKenna, which we haven't talked about yet. There's a blog that was essentially describing that when you're enlightened, there's nothing to say and nothing to teach. So what does that say about people who do and teach it? Is it mean that they are... Is it just a role they're playing? Are they just faking it? Or do they not actually... Are they not all the way yet? Because there's nothing to say, apparently, when you reach total realization. So if you are teaching it, either you're showing someone the path towards nothing, which is there's nothing to get there, there's nothing to get, or what are you? And many people are doing it for money or power or what?
Yeah, so can I just say a couple of guys you need to check out for this very reason is Tony Parsons, Jim Newman. They're both
Heard names.
very most direct of all the non-dual guys. Very direct, and they both say the same thing. This is not teaching. There's nothing to get. But all they can do is kind of talk about it. But the ones who do try and teach, they're saying if you do this and you do that, you'll get there. That's
and so on.
yeah. Or even some of the guys on YouTube that are just, it's very much if you follow this process, you will get to enlightenment.
Right.
They poo-poo that. They say that that's not it. What they're talking about is what is, and what is it can't be described. It doesn't have. It's not a teaching. Yet they'll try and talk about it. But they're the two most direct. It's a complete paradox. Like it's.
Yeah.
Well, there's different levels though. There's different levels. That's the thing.
No, there is definitely different levels.
So there is a level, and it may. I'm not even sure that the level Jed McKenna is on is the highest level. I'm not. I don't think so. Actually, I don't think so. It's a high level, sure. Yeah. It's not the highest level. There's various levels, and so. Even though, yes, you might be at that particular level with absolute nothingness and there's nothing to do in it because you're just literally just consciousness in front of there's nothing there. That's all very well and good. But somebody who's at level, if you haven't read Power versus Force and you're listening to this podcast, I would pause it and just go read the book and then come back to this. But so if you're or you can Google Map of Consciousness for now, but then read the book after. But somebody who's at level like 540, level of joy and in their heart, that person has a lot to teach humanity. A lot. Okay, when I was sitting around blissed out and I was somewhere in the 500s, believe me, I was a spiritual guru and I could be a very successful spiritual guru on that level of consciousness.
Do you like the David Hawkins books? You like them?
Oh yeah.
You think they're really good, yeah? No, I've read them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's different levels, and honestly, and this is a bit of a dichotomy for me. I'm still trying to figure this out, but somebody like, I've been following this guy Matt Kahn for a while, and I think he's good. He's for sure, he's in the 500s, somewhere around there. But if you listen to somebody who's coming from a place of love, the level of that they can, the amount they can help you, and how much value and truth, and how much you can transform your life by following somebody that's in that frequency, is drastically more, I find, than somebody who's at a level of where they're just nothing and they're teaching you about nothingness. Fuck nothingness. I don't want nothingness. I want to be in a state of love for myself fully and all other beings and coming from that space. God is love.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I don't want nothingness.
But the guys...
And you can teach people how to get to the place of love. You can.
Yeah,
I've been moving in that direction myself.
One is the next step, right? We always want the next rung on the ladder.
Well, I'm not sure anymore that nothingness or absolute, like just I'm just nothing and I have nothing. I don't feel that that's higher than being in a place of love.
No, but they're the same.
I don't feel that.
They're the same thing because the nothingness is so the absolute, the non. You say like the non-dual. There's just this there's still nothing. It contains the relative. They're both valid. The relative, like we're having the relative here, even though there's one, it's like one appearing as two or appearing as many. Even though ultimately it's this is still valid because this is contained within that.
Sure.
So the absolute contains all of the everything.
This is how it feels to me. Yeah. It's my entire process of whatever we want to call it, spiritual realization or raising level of consciousness. Feels like I'm just taking a further out viewpoint and gradually getting a further and bigger viewpoint and seeing the same thing with added context around the outside of it. So I still see the pain and suffering that exists, but now I have a larger context, and now I have a larger context, and now I have a larger context. And for years and years I've gone, imagine myself 1 year ago, fuck, that was a very small and constricted viewpoint, and then every year I've been getting further and further out. And I think love is a significant degree further out than people who still think this is wrong, we must change it. And then you reach the level of acceptance or whatever, and everything is okay, even though it looks wrong, everything is ultimately okay. And then you move out further and further, and the levels of nothingness and non-duality are probably just a wider viewpoint that still encompasses everything within it, like love. That's how
A good quote. I think I might have used this quote before on one of your podcasts, but Ken Wilber says, you're dreaming that there's children that are starving. There's two things you can do. One is you can feed them, the other is you can wake up. And they're both equally valid.
It's hard to that sort of thing is hard to understand when you're on the lower level. But occasionally, like, I have, let's just say friends. I have friends who are still in a very fear-based state, and anytime I see them unfazed by things that are ostensibly horrible or wrong around the world, they're like, "Do you not care about this?" And I'm like, "Well."
Now, this brings us perfectly into another guy I've gotten into recently. Very curious to see if you've discovered him. Tom Campbell.
No.
Fucking awesome. He's a scientist, and he talks about the double slit experiment and what it actually means, and blah blah blah. And
he's a physicist who turned his attention to consciousness.
Yeah, amazing.
Basically, and so it's awesome. What he's explaining fits my personal experience of reality. So once you actually understand his model, it not only does it line up with all the religions and what they're saying, it lines up with the way I've seen synchronicity and things show up in my life and many other things. And so I'll share one thing from him, which is fucking epic. He's basically saying it's a 3D virtual reality, right? Totally proven by science at this point. This is just a hologram, and things are randomly generated for us,
or like a simulation, or some kind of matrix type.
So, for example, basically everything is consciousness, everything is subjective. Like your whole reality, everything is just being generated for you personally. So, when they ask that question, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, there is no tree. There's no tree unless there's some being there with consciousness to see the tree. Then there is a tree because it's being generated for you. So, for example, this is what he says. He says, imagine a guy walks into a forest, and it's undiscovered forest. So you can look at a map and go, okay, we know there's a forest if you walk in that direction, but there's no humans there whatsoever. So because you're walking in that direction, you're expecting that you're going to run into a forest. You will, because people have agreed there's a forest there. So you go to the forest, and in that moment, one of, let's say, 50 things can be generated for you, things you'd expect to see in a forest, right? Normal stuff. So, for example, a guy walks into this forest, and he sees a tree that's kind of like a half-dead tree, and it's sort of like leaning over like it's going to fall, and it's kind of there. So he looks at it and says, oh, cool, it's a half-dead tree. He leaves the forest, comes back 5 years later, he sees the tree laying down, the tree's falling down. Is that normal? Yes, because it's within the statistical probability of things that would have happened within that 5 years. It's just normal that it would have fallen. Now, it might not have. But in this case, it was. But it was presented to him as what happened. Anyway, so now imagine for a second, the same guy walks in this forest first time, sees the tree, says, "Oh, there's a dead tree leaning over." But as soon as he starts walking out of the forest, a bear comes and eats him. He's dead. He's gone. No one else has ever seen this forest. And then whatever. Right after that, another guy walks into that same bit of forest. Is that new guy going to see an old tree that's kind of leaning over?
So we would say yes, think normal in the universe.
What do you think, John? So the answer
there's no way to know.
The answer is maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Because it wasn't recorded, because the guy that recorded it, right? Because there's laws that have to be followed, and consistency is one of those laws, right? So if you know what I'm saying, if you look over there and there's like a painting of Mona Lisa on the wall, right? It's there. 5 minutes later, you look on the wall. It's not going to be a painting of Pavarotti. Because it can't be. That's impossible. That's the rules. There has to be some. So this video game that we're in has a rule set. Gravity. That's how it works. There's a sun over there and it heats things at this amount. Blah blah blah. Yeah. So because that guy got eaten by a bear, the rule wasn't set.
The rule wasn't set.
Exactly right.
This is just a micro version of it.
The next guy who walks into that forest, he may be generated one of many things. One of them could be that same tree.
And it all depends on the probability of
It's random probability. Another simple example: you're a guy. You live in a flat. You're going on vacation for 2 weeks. But when you leave, right, you have about 3-4 beers in your fridge, something like that. You come back and you can't remember exactly. You didn't take notice of how many beers, but there was like 3 or 4. So when you open that fridge, it's going to be generated for you 3 or 4 beers, but it won't be a full case of 12 beer. That's impossible. And it's also impossible that it wouldn't be any beer. You would be really like, whoa, I know I had 3 or 4. There's none in there. That would freak you out. Yeah. You'd start thinking, did someone break into my flat and take beers? That makes no sense. So if you really understood how things worked, you would open your fridge before you left, you'd take a picture, and then boom, now it has to be exactly 4. That's what it was, because there's evidence.
Yeah.
So there's a rule set. So this is like, this fucking blew me away. And so because because consciousness is everything, and we're just a subset, we're part of it. We are helping consciousness evolve by our experiences, but it's actually one unit. We're just a smaller bit of that unit in ourselves, or a smaller bit, and it just goes down. So the point is that everything that's everything is consciousness, everything is subjective, and because consciousness wants to evolve to the highest level, right? Everything that's happening is there's an undercurrent of it wants that to happen. Therefore, rather than it always being random subsets, it will, if the universe knows if this one thing was presented to you and you took it, it could lead to your spiritual, evolution or whatever. So it'll give you those things, and we call them synchronicity. Oh, what a coincidence! What a coincidence that just when I was reading that book, I ran into another guy who was reading that same book who gave me this insight. Wow, what a coincidence! It's not a fucking coincidence. The universe was like, of all the people you could meet that day, there could be anyone who could be at the shop at the same time as you, but it's going to generate for you a guy who happens to be reading the same book as you at the same moment, because that's going to lead to your some.
I've had so many of those recently, and my Dave as well. Dave's had so many as well. It's the universe is just prodding you, saying you're going in the. This is what you're doing is right. What you're doing is right. Yeah,
but not always.
Yeah.
You see, you see what I'm saying? It's like if you're on the spiritual path and you're really hardcore, oh man, are you going to see those things? But if you're unconscious and you're like, oh, whatever, you're not really paying attention, you won't even notice. So you'll talk to other people and they'll be like, what do you mean? What do you mean synchronicity? What are you talking about? Everything's random. If you believe everything's random and you're not paying attention, that's what you get. You get all random probabilities, because that's what you're going to see. Even if the universe is trying to give you something, you wouldn't even see it. You wouldn't notice it. So for me, man, it just makes me super hyper aware of, like, every single day when I go to local shop around the corner to get whatever fucking bag of chips or whatever it is, I'm paying attention to everything. Who's there? Who talks to me? Who looks at me? What people are wearing? Like at any moment. And even further, as a spiritual practice, just treating every single person like God, because they are, right? So anyone that says anything to you, it's God talking to you. Quite literally, God is talking to you.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. He's trying to fight. Like, look at everything as what's the universe telling me? What's God telling me?
And at times it just might be like nothing. You're just eating your meal in the universe. Everything is cool. But then, if you're paying attention, you will see the things dropping in. How many times? I mean, I can't even. I'm not even going to begin to list.
I'm going to set this up another level.
Yeah,
you let me.
Step it up, bitch.
So he's taken an abstraction and he's used objective experiment to demonstrate that there's no objective reality. So we know we have a subjective reality, and his model of what that is something where we have consistency. I think consistency is just another expectation that we place upon the universe so it responds as we expect. Because we have examples where that does not hold. We've both experienced examples together.
Slow down your speech about 20%.
We've both
because I was getting to that place where it's difficult.
We've both experienced examples together, cited in Ecuador, when we had what we call timeline shifts, where there was no logical way to get from experience 1 to experience 2, like a floor of our apartment disappeared. That's not consistency in the Kambo model, and you could say that is another probability that was thought of for us. Timeline shifts are how we both started to question objective reality in the first place. Ultimately, have you had any of these? Like any distinct gaps in your reality that could not have both been true? And so you either you remembered it wrong, or something's changed.
I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I probably have.
Like for one, we had small ones, and we were like, "Oh, did I just remember that one?" But then, in the space of a week, we had a 2-floor apartment become a 1-floor apartment, and that's in rural Ecuador, and that doesn't happen. There was no demolition team in there during that week when we went there.
Yeah, let me put something out there. Right. So when you look at the dream state and the waking state, the rules that you have in the waking state that are fixed.
You mean enlightenment?
Dream. No. When I say dream state, as in dreaming at night, regular dreaming. Yeah, being awake now and dreaming. When you're in the dream state, the rules are bendable. Do you know what I mean? Then
exactly.
Right. So, but the dream state and the waking state, they're not. They're actually. The waking state is a dream state. It just has more consistent rules. But who's to say that at times those rules can't actually, because it's still a dream.
Yes.
You've got
It's just different rule sets.
It's just different rule sets, right? Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Tom Campbell says this, and it's so fascinating. He says we would call this physical reality because look, I can shake Henry and I could pinch his little cheek here and I could feed him some cake and he'll love it. But that's because we're in it now. When I'm in a lucid dream and I'm walking around, I have a body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can still eat. I can do whatever I want. And then this, if I was to think about this is a dream.
Same thing, yeah.
The other ones, so who's to say...
You can have an entirely different body, entirely different character.
Sure, just because I can decide to fly around in that dream doesn't mean it's less real. It just has different rules.
So what is the you that is the you in both this life and that life?
But so when you're having a dream, right? In the dream, you are convinced that you're inside the body of this character, and that there is an inside and an outside. There's an inside that's you, there's an outside that's the world. There's separate things, there's separate people that all have independent, autonomous realities, right? Then you wake up, right? What was the whole dream made of? It was all made of one thing. It was which can't be named. It doesn't have it's not a substance.
Sensations were the outside as well.
Right. So now if you see that all the people in the dream, all the separate things, and the inside and the outside were all one thing, this is the same thing. The inside and the outside is imagined. There's no inside and outside. Yeah. All the separate people that you think are all separate and autonomous they're all actually the same thing. This whole thing is made of dream stuff.
Yes. The more I seem to learn from and hear themes that occur across teachers from different fields, the more it seems to be that this waking reality that we seem to experience continuously for years and years is just something that acts more and more like a dream, and what you believe will happen is what is fed back to you in a kind of feedback loop. So your own beliefs about, and Jed McKenna says this, your own beliefs and emotions thoughts and emotions become the dream state. And whether we're talking about synchronicities or things we expect to happen, it reminds me of the Bentino Mataro video about timelines and how we got into this topic at all. And someone asked him in the questions, what is the most direct way to manifest something in one of the videos? And he goes, well, the most direct way is just to know that it is done. Right? But that's not achievable by most people because you want to leave it. And then instead, like a second most direct way is to remember before it happens what it was like when it was done in the past, and kind of project yourself into the future whilst knowing it was done, and kind of trick yourself into knowing it was done. And all we need is enough evidence until we're completely fucking sure beyond all doubt that it will happen, and then it happens. Whether you meeting Bill Murray or any other kind of thing that we manifest in our lives, it just seems to be the level of certainty that we have about it and our beliefs about what the possible set of experiences is, and then we have random selection within those possibilities, and it's more and more like a dream.
There's a hospital in China where they don't have medicine, and they train the doctors to believe the person is healed. And the person that goes to the hospital gets trained to believe that they're healed. And I've seen videos. There was one where the woman, like they cure a cancer in like seconds. They could see a tumour on the screen. I had no idea whether this is actually real, but if you heard of Greg Braden, you know Greg Braden? Mm-hmm. He was doing a presentation. It was on that. It's that they train the doctors to believe. To really believe, to know the woman is healed, and then when the person goes to the hospital, when they're there, the person is trained, the patient is trained in how to know that they're healed, and they do this thing where they're chanting, like it's done, it's done, it's done, it's done, and they fucking cure this, like they get rid of the tumour like in seconds.
I'm just getting like from different areas of society the same messages. We have faith healing and Christianity. That is real healing. Real healings occur. My sister was healed of allergies. I believe they were psychosomatic, and then she just believed they were gone, and then they were gone, but they were gone. It comes from science. We have the incredible power of the placebo effect, where we think something is true and it becomes true. Whether it's that we think the medication is real, so we get healed. And we can kind of have like the placebo effect is far more powerful than most people give it credit for, and it also fits into this model of what you expect to happen is what you receive. And so we have healings, we have hypnotherapies, hypno births or hypnosurgeries, where people are hypnotized to believe they will have no pain. They believe it so strongly that they experience no pain during open surgery. And we all probably know people who have had surgery or childbirth with just hypnotherapy. I met my driving instructor's wife had a hypno birth.
I've never heard of that before.
You know?
No.
Like instead of any drugs, you just have a hypnotherapist.
Wow,
he just chills you out, and then you don't feel any pain.
Amazing.
Births, we can talk about, similar to circumcision, shouldn't be painful anyway. And what's that name? Shayla from Allegorical talks a lot about this. But
I went to
the same message again and again.
The TNT retreat they said that when a woman's been fully de-armoured and her cervix has been de-armoured, she'll have an orgasm when she gives birth. There won't be any pain.
I know a woman who's had orgasmic
Yeah.
births.
The reason why it's painful is because there's all this armouring and the cervix is all tight and traumatised.
Yeah, I mean, just while we're on the topic there, what I heard this woman, Shayla Martin, just to give her credit, she gave a talk at a conference in February that we went to. She was saying that when you're in fight or flight mode, your body doesn't want you to give birth, clearly. It makes perfect fucking sense. So and when you're scared and you're taken into a foreign environment in a hospital, you're told that your life might be in danger. It's all fucking sterile environment. It's scary as shit. No wonder that your body clamps down. And now you're trying to force a baby out through this body which is going, fuck this. I'm in. This is fight or flight now. Well, especially if you don't know what's happening. It's your first birth. Whereas if you're in an environment like home, yes, you're less close to medical care if something did go physically wrong, but it's got to be far more pleasant. It makes me wonder about we talk about trauma passing from parents to kids. If your mother is terrified and drugged out as she's giving birth to you, what kind of start is that on life?
Also, apparently they're not supposed to cut the umbilical cord. It will come off on its own.
Really?
They're supposed to leave it. And the baby should. Again, that was from TNT.
I want to share something about
And the baby should be with the mother all the time, like constantly. I can't remember exactly the time frame, but when a baby's born, it should be with the mother, literally with the mother all the time, for quite a long time. They should not be separated at all, because otherwise you get a separation trauma for the baby, which is another thing that's in the book about TMS is separation trauma. So when they take the baby and they put it, immediately take it away from the mother and what have you, and they put it in a fucking incubator or whatever they do, they shouldn't. The umbilical cord should not be cut. It will just come off on its own, and it should be with the mother continuously.
We didn't involve scissors, did we, to cut it off?
No.
Yeah, as I've gone further into my own kind of emotional processing work, which seems to be what I've worked out for myself about this kind of thing, feeling old emotions, allowing them out, and then experiencing the freedom physically and mentally of that occurring. As I allow my body to direct my own releasing emotion and emotional expression, I've come closer and closer to what feels like or looks like intuitively like a birth experience.
Wow.
And I only get so far before my mind panics and shuts it off. But I noticed I kind of naturally began to kind of curl up in a ball, for example. And since about March, so what are we, 6 months now, I've experienced kind of, when I allow energy to move up and out, choking sensations. And I thought it was a throat chakra thing at first. I thought I was just working on my throat chakra, but I don't think it is. I think it feels like I'm reliving an experience of suffocation, piece by piece. And I don't know what happened when I was a kid. I don't think I had any suffocation experiences. But if that is happening, and I'm also beginning to curl up in a ball, and, for example, you weren't meant to cut the umbilical cord, which is giving me oxygen and air, maybe that could be it. Maybe the suffocation. And I kind of have an intuitive awareness of the kind of choking sensation of not being able to breathe. And my body simulates that experience until I can't take it anymore, and then I just relax and breathe normally, because clearly I can breathe. And even if I was to pass out or something, you would continue to breathe. So it's all simulation now. But my body simulates an experience of breathing being cut off, and I'm kind of struggling to breathe against nothingness. And I kind of have this sort of choking sensation. It's been a theme for a while now, when I really get into kind of an emotional expression session. And I don't think I've reached the peak, and I intuit that I'm going to remember a traumatic birth or something like that if I take it far enough, because of the body movement of curling up and of that as well. I know that my mum was on an epidural while she had me. I found that out, which is a kind of a spinal.
That's it. Numbs the body from the legs down, basically. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And theoretically that shouldn't touch the blood, so it shouldn't touch the baby. But I mean, energetically, I've learned these things don't matter. Like if your mother's kind of scared as hell, in pain and drugged out, there's going to be a transfer there, no matter what. And I guess only some of us are circumcised, but I would wager that in modern society, almost all of us have less than perfect births. I mean, rare is it that you have a mum who gave you like a perfect orgasmic birth at home, where everyone's happy? Like that's, they exist, but they're fucking rare, man. So
Sorry, can I just stop you there? Just because the time's getting on, I need to just see how long it's going to take me to get to where I'm going. So see how much time we got left.
I think the level of willingness to face your own pain is fairly high before you can even contemplate a birth. And this is the point of primal, right? The original name for primal therapy is because you eventually relive a birth experience. So that's why this is in my my mind.
I mean, yeah, I think we've got the point across, but for a while there I was looking into natural birth and why it's better and blah, blah, blah. And basically, the modern day birth at the hospital, they do everything they can to not only traumatize the child, but to break the connection with the mother. Everything from these drops they put in to the eyes, moving the baby away right away, circumcision, artificial light, all these things are specifically, like for example, like one guy has an expert who's doing an interview and he basically said, if I was going to make a program that would absolutely sever the connection between the baby and the mother and fuck up the kid as much as possible, this is what I would do. And everything he wrote down, that's what they're doing. So it's not a coincidence. It's not like, oh boy, they're so ignorant. No, they're not ignorant. This has all been created, very, very much planned to create as much trauma in society as possible. That's what it seems like to me. Right?
I've read a diary of a doctor recently who, while he was a doctor, he quit. But while he was a doctor, he worked on a maternity ward, and they are saving lives daily and trying their best to help women daily. And it's undoubtedly true that of those women where something goes wrong during the birth, they can fix it if they're in hospital, and that's just undeniable. But yeah, all these traumatic factors that occur, it's almost seems more from a societal relationship to things like birth and death. They need to be in hospital, away in these foreign environments. We don't really have birth or death so kind of like core to our society as they must have been in times past.
Yeah, when I heard about natural birth, and the best way to do it actually is your woman's actually supposed to be standing. Because you're moving in the movement naturally as you're moving around, moving your hips and walking. That actually gravity gently pulls the baby out in a very safe way, and into just dropping into water would be the absolute best thing, and ideally with dolphins around apparently, because apparently with dolphins it's some magical shit happens and the baby's like the IQ's higher, everything's safe. It's like insane, like it's a whole thing. I think they have centers in Germany and some other countries where you're giving birth in a pool with dolphins around, and it's like perfect. It's
amazing.
Like the perfect birth, like nothing goes wrong. It's like insane.
I've seen a video come up on Facebook of all places, so I can't imagine it still exists, where a woman was standing in a field and she's got like a shawl on, so she's not naked, but you see she kind of bends over slightly forward, and then she kind of like squats a little bit, and then her head pops out, and then slowly the shoulders follow and the body follows, and she kind of just catches it and then picks it up. She just did it entirely by herself, standing. And people are like, look at the badass woman. But it was so easy and simple. The way she was doing
as you
it.
Do, just baby done.
You think it was the first time? It sounds like she was pretty confident. Might have been her ninth kid.
You know, babies, we know how to swim naturally. Babies that are born in water just swim. And the reason why we have to learn how to swim is because when you're a kid and you're around water, your parents freak out and they make you scared of water. Like, you know, when you're a toddler and you go near the fucking pond, they scream, "Ah!" That makes you scared of water, and then you need to learn how to swim. But actually, a baby will just swim. If you give birth in a pool, the baby just swims.
I heard it was evolutionary, because you don't want your kids get eaten by a crocodile or whatever. Apparently, they do hold their breath in water.
Apparently, I think it was the Spartans or one of them lot just chuck babies straight into the fucking water, and if you don't swim, you're not strong enough. But most of them swim.
Yeah.
I think we should bring that back, to be honest. That'd be great. Chucking babies in pools.
I guess it doesn't matter if you're born in water. If your umbilical cord's still attached, you can still breathe.
Yeah.
As well, if that is the case.
Yeah. That's a good point. So you've been on the podcast before, and last time we were talking about consciousness and enlightenment and all this wackiness, but now you've been getting heavily into the Kambo.
Yes.
So I did mine first time you were there. Another guy was leading it.
Yeah.
And that was actually pretty traumatic. pretty traumatic. I don't remember if I shared my story, but bottom line is they gave me the Kambo, and I wasn't quite. I puked some, but not quite enough.
Do we need to define what Kambo is for people?
I think we should even start at the beginning. John, tell us about what's Kambo.
Okay, so Kambo is the secretion from the sapo tree frog from the Amazon. So it's been used for centuries by the indigenous as a hunting medicine. So they capture these frogs. It's all done in a very humane way. It's done very delicately. They extract this secretion from the frog's skin, and what you do is, I don't know if you can be able to see, but you make these very small burns on the skin with an incense stick, and you just rub the top layer of skin off. There's no blood or anything. It's just literally the top layer to reveal the dermis underneath. You put this secretion on the wounds, and what it does is it causes a real deep detox of the body, so it makes you really sick in a short space of time. It's not a pleasant process, but it's incredibly healing. It's very detoxifying, and it has a lot of benefits, broad range of benefits, from a detox to a boost to the immune system. You don't get sick anymore when you work with Kambo, like colds and flus never happen, healing autoimmune conditions, removing emotional blocks, removing energy blocks, lifting what's called panema. So the indigenous, they believe that dark and negative energy, they call it panema, and it's stored around you in your aura and in the internal organs of the body. And this panema it's an obstacle to you achieving what you want to achieve in life. So it can,
much like the trapped emotions we're talking about.
yeah. So depression, it can manifest as depression, confusion, lack of clarity, lack of motivation, bad luck. And what Kambo does is it lifts the panema, and that's the main reason the indigenous use it. And they use it before they hunt, the night before they hunt. All the tribal warriors, the hunters, they all dose themselves up with Kambo, probably do multiple rounds of it to lift all their panema, get this amazing physical boost that it gives you, and then they go and they hunt the next day. And absolutely,
this is a different folk to the one where they scrape psychedelic.
That's bufo. That's the bufo alvarius, and that's complete. So Kambo's not psychedelic. You don't trip with it. It's purely I mean, you can have visuals. It's sometimes people if somebody you can pass out on it. It can happen. It's not dangerous, but they'll pass out, and they often talk about a really blissful experience during the time that they're out. But it's never happened to me. But it's not a psychedelic, whereas bufo, yes, is the most psychedelic plant there is.
How often do you dose Kambo, or would people dose Kambo? I've never done it. You've both done it.
So it's good to do it. I mean, I just got back from Mexico, doing some training there, and the belief there, and I think it's a really good idea, and this is what I did when I was there. You do it 3 times in a week. Okay. So I did three sessions, day on, day off, for 1 week, and then when I do it on myself now in the UK, I'm going to do it 1 week out of the month. I'm going to do it 3 times during the week, and then periodically other times when I feel like I need it.
So you're going to go every month plus a
little top up, maybe once or twice as well as that.
Would that be considered a normal level of dosing, or
that would probably, because I'm working with it and giving to other people, I need to be working with it a lot. But I would say if somebody's using it for the first time, do it 3 times in as quick as possible. So either in a week or 2 weeks or a month. If you had to do it 3 times in a month, it's still okay. And then that's getting your sort of initial boost, and then as and when you feel after that, maybe once a month, or maybe once every 6 months. Right. The bottom line is, the more you work with it, you'll get an intuition about when you need to do it. You really start to feel into it, and the more you do it, the deeper you go, because the toxins and the panema. So on a physical level, you've got the toxins, like the liver bile, and on an energetic level, you've got the panema. There's layers of it inside you. So when you purge on Kambo, it comes out as this yellow liquid, which is the bile, but it's also the panema, and there's layers of it. So you can have a bile purge, and this is what I learned when I was in Mexico. You're not done. There's more. You can go deeper. You can do another round. So when I was doing it there, I was often doing double sessions. So I'd do it, and then I'd rest for a couple of hours, and we'd go again. And on the second one, you just get deeper and deeper levels of this shit coming out your mouth, and different colours, darker colours of it. You know, the thicker liquid.
Not blood.
No, it's not blood. No. It's bile, mainly bile. There's other toxins, but it starts with like just clear water coming out, and it's got foam in it and bits and pieces from the stomach. But then the real purge is the bile, and that's yellow.
So it's mostly vomiting.
Yeah, and the other end as well. A proper purge will be both ends. Both ends, yeah. Anyway, so that's what Kambo is. Sorry, I went off on a bit of a tangent, but that's Kambo. Yeah.
The purging is one of the reasons why I've been suspicious of it, because it seems, I mean, any medicine that makes you do that. I know ayahuasca does that, and that has benefits, but I guess I'm reticent a little to sign up for something.
But the thing with Kambo is, it's because people think it's a poison. So I'm being poisoned. So so when you take a magic mushroom, you are poisoning yourself technically, right? Yeah, this is a bit different. So when you if you were to eat Kambo or ingest it, you're going to be poisoned, and it's very dangerous. But when you take it this way on the skin, what's actually happening is
it goes to the lymph system, right?
Correct, and it goes straight to the brain. And it's only the peptides and the neuropeptides get absorbed and go through to the brain. So it's called bioactive, and what that means is essentially you're just taking the parts that you need, and they're going to the brain without the poison, essentially. So you're not poisoned, even though people may look like they've been poisoned. It's not at all. The reason why you feel so terrible when it's happening is because the body's releasing all its toxins, So the Kambo actually works on the brain. It's got these different peptides and neuropeptides that act on the receptors, and literally that's like the brain has these little locks, and the neuropeptides are the keys. Yeah. And what the body's doing, it can actually do it on its own. The Kambo is just telling the body what to do. It's not the Kambo that's healing you. Your body's healing itself. Right. And it's a very interesting...
Which is again a parallel to psychedelics.
Yeah, it's a really interesting method for it being medicine. And this is what I was learning, is that Kambo, it's not like injecting yourself with something and that's doing the work. It's not that at all. It's the biopeptides wake the brain up to do it. And what's interesting is when I'm going to take Kambo, I noticed this really strong in Mexico. Before we'd even started, I could feel it. It was coming. I could feel heat in my face. My neck started, the blood here started to feel nauseous, and it's like my brain can do it. It can do that without the Kambo.
Is that just you remembering what it was like last time? Or?
I don't know. I mean, like when you're really sick and you vomit and bile comes up, right. Your body's clearing. It's clearing the toxins. So your body knows how to do these things. Yeah. It's just the Kambo is waking up the body, and it's telling it.
I've got many friends who say a lot of good things about it.
But yeah, different layers. There's different layers to the panema, to the toxins. It can always, not always, but it can often be emotional. And normally, if it's a really difficult process with Kambo, it's because there's a lot of emotions, and you have to. What Kambo does, it makes you sit in the emotions before you purge them out. Mm-hmm. So if you've got whatever it is, if you're an emotionally closed person, or you've got trauma, then when you take Kambo, or if you're just going through a particular situation in your life and it's emotional, traumatic, when you take Kambo, you have to sit in that pain, sit in it, and just surrender to it, and then purge it out. And unpleasant. As with most of these things, in order to get to the good stuff, you've got to go through a difficult process. But it's amazing medicine. It's helped me. It's helped my business partner Dave. Helped all the whole team at Planet Kambo Plus, all the people that we've given Kambo to. It's great medicine, it really is, and I'm very privileged to work with it.
Nice. Yeah, that 2 or 3 minutes just when it hits you, and your first thought is just like, why did I do this? Why in the world did I do this? This is so horrible. And then once you have that first big puke, it's not that bad, and then a few minutes after that, you're just like, you're so happy, and the joy that comes when it's over, you're just like, oh my god, it's over, and you realize like, oh, that was the worst. That moment where you realize the worst is past and you're getting better is a beautiful moment. You're just like, oh fuck yeah.
Because Kambo, it releases, so when it's working in the brain, it's acting on the opioid receptors, and I forget the name of which neuropeptide it is, but one of them, I think it's 4,000 times stronger than morphine in terms of a painkiller and an analgesic. And I can attest to this because when I take it and I've got back pain, it fucking disappears for the rest of the day. But there's a real euphoria feeling you get for the whatever it is, the rest of the day and maybe the following day. So there's a great afterglow for Kambo. You do feel really. I remember when I was in Mexico and I did a double session, and that evening I was just sitting there and I was like, man, I feel fucking great. You just feel clear and happy. But yeah, I've got loads of work to do on myself with it. Like there's a lot of Kambo I need to take, a lot of panema I need to remove. And I say, especially because I'm working with it, this was more of the advice I got during the training, is like, you can't give Kambo if you don't work with it yourself. You can't just give to other people. You need to really work with it a lot yourself. And then when you give Kambo, you just intuitively, it will come. It will flow through you. You won't need to think about what you're doing. It will just.
Do you think it can be considered a shortcut for doing it? Maybe the way you've been doing with the TMS stuff. If it's doing the same healing, is it just like a more accelerated version for you, or does it feel different?
What, healing the TMS? You mean?
No. Do you think Kambo is an accelerator? Can be like a sped up way of dealing with difficult emotions, or
possibly? I think on it you can't do. If somebody was like, if somebody's horribly traumatized and dealing with depression and all this stuff, can't just say just do Kambo and it will fix you. It's just like used in conjunction with other stuff, I think it's very good. Same with anything. There's no magic bullet. You can't just say, I did ayahuasca and it cured me.
Right, but what
doesn't work like that.
Does for a lot of people. It just speeds up the process by several months or years.
But I do think with Kambo, is not something that you just do it once and there's like, that's something I did. Is you need to keep working with it.
Not as traumatic.
And it gets easier as well. The more as you start to clean, the more often you do it, the easier it's going to get. If you do it once every 6 months, it's going to be brutal every time. But if you start doing it, if you were doing it, you know, every week, or I mean, the guy I was training with, he was doing it. I think one time he did it 7 days on the trot, which is pretty extreme. But he said you no idea how fucking good I felt after that, like Superman, you know. So
scars on your arm heal?
Yeah, they will. I mean, they may never go.
You've got dozens
These are different. These are multiple sessions, and these are old ones.
I can't even see my ones anymore. So
No,
after a while, it's gone.
They do heal. I mean, the way we do it as well.
That was Mexico.
Yeah, that's Mexico. But we're very careful with the burns. So some people, like, these are old ones from someone else, and they're quite deep, and I don't think they'll ever heal.
Right.
But we're very, very careful to only just flick the top layer of skin.
Right.
So it's not a deep burn. You just need to see the white underneath.
To the tissue
That's
layer
it. So I'm very, very careful not to scar people, just to try and make them as neat and tidy as possible. But yeah, it's good stuff. It's great.
So check out John's website.
Yeah,
if anybody's
that's,
in Europe and you want to do some Kambo.
Please, www.planetkambo.com. You can also check us out on Facebook and Instagram.
I can vouch for him. He's not a dick. He's all right. He's all right, guys. He's all right. And it's important to find people that aren't dicks. Now, here's an interesting thing that happened to me that we need to talk about before we wrap this thing up. So I've been reading Jed McKenna's third book.
Okay.
Yeah, you might as well give it a flash. And it's a good book. It's muy interesante. And
Spiritual warfare.
And so, yeah, apparently the guy's anonymous, even though I found a thread where people claim to know where he is. But anyway, and so, Henry, why don't you tell people that, generally speaking, what he's pushing at?
This book?
No, I would say overall, this guy.
Overall, he wrote 3 books, or someone wrote 3 books under the name Jed McKenna. From in the 2000s, I think it's 2008. There's final one, so 2004 for the earlier ones. First book's called Spiritual Enlightenment and the Damnedest Thing, and it's about what he thinks spiritual enlightenment is like. And he says many times that it's funny because anyone who is enlightened would never use the word enlightenment to describe where they're at, and yet he talks about it because only he thinks the state he's in could really fits that term. It's an incredibly powerful book and series of books, and probably at this point in my life, 23 years old, I read the first one when I was 18, 17. No other author has affected my life as much as this author. Pretty fucking powerful shit. The first 2 books are about enlightenment, and the third book is more about stuff we were talking about earlier in the conversation: manifestation, flow, living good within the dream that is this reality, living as best we can. That's the one you've been reading first. You haven't read the ones about enlightenment yet.
Nope.
They're fucking scary books. Don't read them on a whim, or if you do, I was warned, so I'll pass on the warning. If you read the first one, you might get depressed for about 2 weeks after reading the first book, and it will fade, and then you'll be glad you read it. But it's fair warning, it's pretty hard hitting.
I think,
stuff.
To be honest, telling people be careful and you probably don't want to read. Everyone's just going to.
Read that
someone
book.
says, I don't know if you're ready for the ego goes, oh no, I'm definitely ready.
It's like a red button that says don't push.
Yeah, exactly.
You can read it if you want. Just be ready for 2 weeks of depression. Maybe don't read it if you've got an exam coming up or a big day at work.
That's fair warning. But anywho, generally speaking,
my life fell to pieces and I lost my job.
That's what I want. Those reviews on my next book.
Yeah.
But generally he's coming, like some people, you listen to them and whatever, spiritual gurus or leaders or whatever, and they're, a lot of people are talking about love, getting to that place of love, and how love is the highest level, blah blah blah. That's what I sort of subscribe to. And this guy's coming from a different place, a place of really just nothingness. Like there's no personality, there's nothing, and it was foreign to me.
He's about what's real and what's true in terms of enlightenment stuff. And if it's not true, then he'll want to fucking destroy it and push it away. So he went on a kind of universe-destroying search for something that was true, and in the process lost all of reality, everything he loved, everything he hated, everything he thought was real, until he arrived at the one thing he couldn't destroy anymore, and then he was done. So yeah, love for him was part of that journey. And Hawkins talks about this as well. He talks about that as midway through the levels of enlightenment, as a trap you can fall into, and a lot of there's some Zen authors, some classic Zen authors who had the same thing, did the same process Jed did, and arrived in the same place. And Hawkins is the only person I've seen who has said there's a mistake here in that you think love is something that's dual and that you can destroy if you're talking about the ultimate truth, whereas Hawkins thinks actually the trick is love is an expression of the ultimate truth as part of God, and when you realise that love is one of the things which cannot be negated or destroyed, then it becomes the only thing that's true, and it goes from the void to the heart of the sun.
No, that's what it is. It is love. It is the void is unconditional love because it's sameness. There's no other. There's just a singularity, and
there's a difference between feeling just still black and empty.
Yeah, but it's not
feeling white hot and.
But and this is from my own experience. When I was in Mexico, I did Bufo, which is a 5-MeO DMT,
really?
And going to a place of complete and utter pristine stillness and silence, the most sacred place that anyone could ever go. In that place of nothingness, there was the most pristine, unconditional love, and it's like going to your innermost, the most inner place inside you, metaphorically speaking, and in that place, the realization that it's always just been you, and you are your own. You are the creator and the created. You gave birth to yourself, metaphorically, and that is unconditional love. And it's not. It's hard to put it into words, but it's the same feeling you feel when you really love someone, but it's so pure and so. It's like crystal love. It's just a crystal feeling of love, and it's like, oh, it's always. Of course, it was always. And it almost, you're just crying with it, tears are flowing because it's just like, oh my God, I am all of it, and I always have been, and there's nothing other than me. And I don't mean like John, I mean that, and in that, and I don't even think I had the full breakthrough on Bufo, but it is unconditional. It is unconditional love.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
That. A state of like nothingness, but with love in it. Great. I could subscribe to that. Enlightenment. Wonderful.
You just don't want the deep dark hole of nothingness.
No, I don't, and I don't believe anyone who's in a hole of just where nothing matters and everything's bullshit is enlightened. No, you might be in a level. Wait, hang on. You might be in some level, and there's many levels, but I don't think that's the highest level. It can't be, because I know the highest level. It has to be love. To be love.
Yeah.
And so interestingly, reading this book, I had a experience. Different than any other that I've had before. I'm not going to say better, but it was different. And all it was I was literally just standing right there in that spot, and I felt, I was just about to go to yoga class, and I felt this something coming on, and I was like, whoa, I need to sit down. And I just sat down, and literally, as soon as I sat down on that couch, I just went full into like no mind Zen meditation, like deeper than I've ever been, ever. And I was just staring at that wall, and it was absolutely no thoughts. And not only were there no thoughts, I was basically just pure presence and awareness, nothing else, staring at the wall, and the ego structure, Sasha, was totally gone. There was no person at all. There just was no person present, and a sort of a, not even a thought came, but it was a note, like a command that was like, get up, keep the state, go to yoga, because I had to go to yoga class. So I thought, okay, I can do that. And as I was getting up to leave, I also knew it would be super weird if I didn't say bye to Isabel. Like you would just walk up. And so I'm like, okay. And I remember thinking, okay, how do I pretend I'm a person?
Right. How would a person
now say goodbye to this other person? And I'm like, okay, the words you need to say are goodbye, see you later. Okay, I'm going to do that. So I walk up to her, I said, goodbye, see you later. And she literally looked at me and said, you're being weird. And some part of me thought that was funny. So I laughed, and I walked out, and I'm at the bus stop, and I'm just staring. Nothing. And at the bus stop, I felt this formulation of a thought, but it's coming, just some normal thought. But I saw it, and I knew this thought is going to take me out of this state. And I went, nope, I'm not focusing on that at all. And I just and this was the first time I left. I could see a thought coming and go, nah. And I destroyed it. I just completely ignored it, and I just was staring for minutes, waiting for the bus to come. Bus comes and shows up. I get on the bus, I sit down, still nothing, nobody. Get off the bus, I'm walking towards yoga. Some guy recognizes me and says, hey, Sasha, whatever. And I know he's talking to me. And I had to fake being Sasha to have a conversation because I didn't want to be rude to the guy, but there was nobody there. There was nobody present in the conversation. So I had the most simple, basic, like, oh, hey, yeah, cool. How you been doing? All right, well, are you on Facebook? Message me on Facebook. So I was able to get that out, but there was still nobody there. It wasn't a real conversation. I wasn't a real person. And eventually I went to the yoga, and as I was listening to the instructors and doing stuff, I sort of went back into normal. But then later, I was able to just sit and go back into the state. I just thought, well, I know I can do it. I was just there. So I would just sit down, and and you can feel when you drop into it, your eye, like that was the thing I forgot to say. it felt like my eyes were so wide and so awake. Like if you look, it felt like if you looked at me, I'd be sitting there doing this.
Hyper focus.
Like I took 1,000 modafinils all at once, and I'm just. But there's no thought. It's just staring. Like I exist and nothing else but that.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so for that day and the next day, I was able to go. Okay, I know I can do this. Just go and be that. But the thing is, it wasn't love based. It wasn't in my heart. It wasn't connection to the divine. It was none of those things. It was just I am awareness and nothing but. There was no mind. It was the dropping of the mind in the ego structure. It's not enlightenment. And I suspect that people who are doing the meditation, who are actually sitting and doing it every day, and they get very peaceful and blah, 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 they're doing some level of that where the mind shuts off. And maybe some really deep meditators get to that place of absolutely, like they forget who they are, and you couldn't talk to them because there's no one there. Maybe it's not enlightenment, it's not being in your heart, it's not connecting to the divine, it's not love, it's not any of that.
It's similarities.
It's just no fucking mind.
Yeah.
That's what, and it's great. Like, and the thing I felt, and this is what I think the benefit is of this practice, of that, what I'm talking about, I felt as, just for those couple of minutes where there was just no fucking buddy there, I felt my body going into a deep relaxation for the first time, because when this shut off, the body was able to go, oh, like really, and I felt at the beginning of total letting go. So if I was able to do that for 20 minutes a day, that would change my life.
Well, people talk about the feeling of being a separate. This is Tony Parsons and Jim Newman talk about this. The feeling of being a separate individual is a tension in the body. So there's an energetic field, and there's a tension here that's learned as a baby. You know, the ego is created, and when the person dies, that tension releases, and you don't even know it's there until it happens, and then it's gone, and then there's just nobody. Then there's nobody there, and they talk about that. And they say that there's this deep relaxation, that there's a letting go, this tension that was the body. This sort of energetic field just relaxes, and then there's nothing.
That is a classic feature of famous enlightened individuals in the past. Very gentle people, very. Yeah,
but what you so that the unconditional love is one without other. That's what it is. Whether there's a feeling of it or not, is that if there is just a singularity,
right,
without anything other, that is unconditional love.
Which is what I was going to say. Yeah. If we have a definition of kind for enlightenment, maybe there's different versions of it. I would just say anything where you have an abiding state of non-dual, or an abiding sense of this oneness of absolutely everything. And that can be with love or without love. It can be a variety of things. And I think Meccano is one place of that. And his place, he says many times, I don't recommend it. It's not that great. What you want is all this other stuff. That's what the book 3 is about.
Yeah, because there's nothing in it for the individual. This is what Jim Newman talks about. He said no one would want this, because when it happens, there's nobody there to know that it's happened. And I had an experience where I experienced the collapse of experience. And it's funny enough, this was a few days before I went to see Jim Newman speak in London, and I asked him about this. I explained what happened to me, and there was literally like this just went like that, and it just became completely flat, totally empty, about nothing.
Do you mean your vision or internally?
It's hard to describe, but there wasn't the knower and the known disappeared. There was just this one thing, and there was no space for there to be a knower.
Perception, perceived.
Yeah, that's it. The perception collapsed, and suddenly I totally got all the things that he said made total sense in that moment. There's nobody there. It's all about nothing, and it just went completely flat. And when it was happening, the word that came to mind was immediate. Everything was so direct and immediate that rather than like now, it feels like there's me here and there's a distance and then there's the world. And within this sort of distance is where the character lives. Right. That distance completely collapsed. Right? And suddenly there wasn't a me acting on the world. There was just what was happening without a separation. So profound. So it's hard to explain it.
It kind of talks about a union of the perceiver, perception, and the perceived. And all those three are one thing.
Yes, it just went like that, and it was flashing in and out where I would suddenly be there, then I wasn't there, and then I was there, and then I wasn't there. When it was happening, it was a complete surprise. Was not at all what I was expecting. It was total surprise because when it was happening, there was nothing in it for me. There was nobody there to get anything from it. So like when Jim Newman says, is that nobody would want this. It's a surprise when it happens because you realise that the one who was trying to get something doesn't get anything. They just, the need to know, he said it's the need to know what this is falls away. The the seeker doesn't suddenly know something. It's that the need to know, to figure stuff out, falls away.
It's a dissolution of the seeker.
That's right.
The
that's
ego
right.
structure that wants to know. How can you want to know something when you're all that is?
Yeah, that's right.
What are you trying to figure out?
No, but you see that knowing is just an abstract. There's no such thing as knowing. There's only being. Knowing is this me here, distance, and the world, and I know this and I know that. When those things when it's revealed that they're not separate things, that there's just one thing, then knowing doesn't make any sense anymore. How can there be such a thing as knowing? Because in order for there to be knowing, there needs to be two things. There needs to be the knower and the known. And when they collapse, there's only being. But that's what I'm saying is just words. When it's happening, it's fucking profound. It's not even anything like what I just said. That's the only way I can describe it. Yeah.
People who have had moments like it recognise or remember their own experiences when they hear it, but it's probably hard to imagine if you've never touched it.
And when I've seen Jim Newman, I've seen him twice, and sometimes people ask him questions, and he always says, "Who would know?" Like they ask him about his experience. Well, he says, when this happened, how did this feel? Or because people are trying to get the trick from him. If he tells you this one thing, you'll get it. And he always just says, "Well, who would know? There's nobody here.
Yeah.
There's no one there. There's nobody here to know. Who would know?" And what he's pointing to is that collapsing of the knower.
Dude, after this is why this was so.
Imagine that forever. That's apparently a future of enlightenment.
Yeah, I don't want that.
No.
Really, I mean, I don't want that. It was just existing.
There is nothing to do if there's no self.
No, I was just like consciousness, presence, and I had to fake being a person. And it was really difficult and weird and awkward, and I just wanted to sit there and stare. Yeah. And I wouldn't want that.
No, but
the more I'm telling, whatever that is,
I mean, you are hyper focused, but the same absence of person is a common feature of many people who reach some kind of
but again, what you're
and you can't want to.
But the sitting for weeks just blissed out, like in connection, my heart open with God.
Yeah,
I had no questions then either, because even though I was a person, like you could come up to me, like, "Oh, do you want a cup of tea?" "Oh yeah, that'd be great, thanks." I was blissed out. Like anyone who would sit next to me would be like, "Dude, you're not even. What the fuck?" I was absolutely in a state of joy, in communion with God. Anything I asked for would pretty much manifest as long as I didn't fuck with it. Like I could. It was creepy. It was ridiculous. It was absolute. And all the answers, like anything I could be. I want to know about that. Oh, that. Oh yeah, that makes sense. So I had no questions.
Yeah, but
I was literally just sitting in God consciousness, but I'm still a person.
The difference between
the
two things that you've just described. Oh fuck! What was I going to say? Hang on. One is a state. The other is the container of all states. The ultimate truth is you are just the container of everything, right? But within that, you have different states. Like you can have the blissed out states of like enlightenment. They're both valid. The absolute contains the relative. So the absolute is valid as just this empty space that contains everything. Yeah. But the relative, as in enjoying life, is also valid because it's contained within the absolute. So you have to embrace them. You can't just go and live in a fucking cave on your own. I mean, it's again paradoxical. It's like Ken Wilber. You have a dream where kids are starving. You can feed them or you can wake up. They're both equally valid. Sure. It's like, yes, you can live this amazing life and be full of love, or you can just go and sit in a cave on your own. They're both equally valid. The meaning is completely mind created anyway. So they're both the same. They have equal value, but
dream 1, dream 2, dream 3, all completely different, and the container, which is fixed.
That's right. That's what it is. Is that the container, the ultimate, the absolute.
Whatever is the same throughout completely different storylines and experiences.
Yeah. The absolute is the background upon which you can't go any further back. It's the canvas upon which everything is painted, and that is what you truly are, and that is
impersonal. There's nothing.
It's impersonal. It is, but it's nothing. But it's also the capacity to be everything.
Yes,
so it's literally an infinite, fractal, psychedelic, nothing, everything. And what it's like no thing, one thing, and all things together.
The unity, the concept of nothing versus everything doesn't make any sense anymore.
No.
Yeah, it sounds like to me, if you're going to put it on the David Hawkins map, it's just a map, but it sounds like that's at the high levels of the 500s, but before, somewhere below. Did you feel close to a state where you could have fallen over into non-personhood, or did it because I found as I get up states, when I've had rare experiences of like glowing unconditional love, and I'm fucking radiating it out. My sense of self feels a little more fragile. I can sort of see the level at which there is no self anymore. It's like the self is widening and white light is coming in. And if I went even further up the scale, there'd be no self left anymore. There'd just be God. And it almost seems like a sliding scale when you between the 500s, kind of form a person who's feeling love until there's more and more love and less person until it's all.
Well, that's what was happening for me in the samadhi. Yeah. It was just, but
without the love in that sense, in that case.
Yeah. Well, in this case here, there was no emotion. There was nothing. There was no emotion, no person, no thought. It was just I exist.
Yeah.
And it's really intense. Conscious.
We talked about
my
my highest ever spontaneous state before, in a similar spontaneity to yours, and there was just infinite presence with no division of anything and no personhood really. But there was no one around at the time, fortunately, so I didn't have to try and pretend to be anyone.
Yeah, but I'm glad someone was, because it was trippy. Like it's funny. Like I get like. But it's interesting that I was given this experience while reading the book, because I think it gives me context to understand the book. That's why. It's not a coincidence. Right. I just happened to be reading this book, and for the first time ever I hit this state. No, it was the universe was like, here. So, very interesting.
I think I need to...
Yeah. So, this has been a great time, as usual.
It was fantastic.
And, well, I was going to say, like, what are you doing in February? It's a long time from now. If you wanted to, you could come down to Mexico. There's an Infinite Man Summit in
totally.
Mexico,
Let's do it.
And it's after Jeff Berwick's event.
Yeah.
And there's people there who are into plant medicines and shit, so it could all work out.
We'll be there. Well, we'll come. Yeah, definitely. We'll come and absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Can you have a load of guys sign up for it?
Great. Yeah. No, we'll do it. 100%. Yeah, we'll be there.
All right. So there it is. Infinite Man Summit, February. InfiniteManSummit.com. This wacko is going to be there. Puking and shitting all over the place.
Of course. And if you're in London at the moment and you want to come and do Kambo, then check us out, planetkambo.com. Come to one of our circles. We'd love to have you.
Henry Lee from henrylee.com, everybody. Soup boy wonder, 23 years old. And ahead of most. Look at him. He's a baby on the path to enlightenment. It's unbelievable.
Someone told 23.
23. I was there when he turned 23. It's quite an event. Good. So that's it. We love you. See you next time. Peace.